there, welcome to the Sermonary Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Taylor, and look, today I want to talk about online sermon builders. Specifically, I want to talk about Sermonary and why I believe it actually turns you into a great communicator and a great sermon writer. So I want to go through 10 reasons why I love using Sermonary. I have not been with Sermonary since its inception, so full disclosure, I am a part of the Sermonary team. I've been here for a little over a year, but I was using Sermonary before I even knew any of the guys that started Sermonary, because I believe it is a really great tool for pastors to be better sermon writers, to be better communicators, and to be in general, do sermon prep better. Now, here's the deal. Every generation has its new technology. And so when people started writing on paper, that was considered new. It was considered edgy. It was considered maybe taboo or controversial, whatever it might be. But it made the process better. It made things better. Now, when we talk about online sermon editors and using technology to begin to write your sermons instead of writing them on paper or notebooks, I believe it makes the process better. It may be new, it may be different. It's a new way of doing things. And let's be honest, sometimes we just need a new way of doing things because the things that we've been doing, maybe they've worked, maybe they haven't, but there is a better way. Technology makes things better for us most of the time, maybe not all of the time, but that's its intention. So I want to go through 10 reasons why I love using Sermonary and then tell you why I believe it makes you a better sermon writer and a better communicator. One, you have a clear starting point for your sermon preparation. So when I sit down to write a sermon, the hardest part of writing a sermon is the beginning. It's just getting started. You've got these commentaries, you've got these resources, you've got these articles, and then you've got a empty blank space in your Word document or in your notebook or whatever it might be. When I begin to sit down to start writing sermons, I struggle to know where to start. Well, Sermonary helps give you a clear place to start. Not only does it just, all you have to do is push the button and write new, but my second reason is the templates that are built inside of Sermonary. There are so many different templates. You've got the traditional 3-point sermon template. You've got the Andy Stanley's me, we, God, you, we method. You've got a verse-by-verse running commentary, which is my favorite. You've got the Defender's outline. You've even got an outline for children's leader and youth pastors, and I believe we have one. If it's not in there, it will be put in there. Tim Keller's template that he uses to write sermons. Now, these are not templates that have content filled in it. It's just, it gives you kind of notes of, here's the kind of content that goes in this block. Here's where you put the verse and then do an explanation of that verse. So these templates give you a place to start. It kind of gives you a way to begin to frame your sermon. And honestly, I really played around with these in the beginning, not only to figure out which one was my favorite, but to maybe preach a little different ways every now and then. And so it's nice to kind of structure. We kind of get into the same habits and routines, and sometimes that can be a little bit boring. It doesn't challenge us. It doesn't stretch us to be better writers. And I think for us to be better at things, and all of us as pastors, we want to be better writers. I think we need to be better writers. In order to do that, we need to stretch ourselves. So I would challenge you to check out these templates, and maybe you've got your favorite, but try a few of the other ones and see how that goes and see if that stretches you as a writer and a communicator. Number 3 is that you can write with a clean and simple dashboard. Now, I am an aesthetics person. I love using things that look really good. I am an Apple guy. I love Apple. I think Apple looks very sleek. Are they the best products on the market? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think they're the best looking products on the market. I love using things that look great. We've put a lot of effort into making sure that Sermonary not only functions better than any other application out there, but it looks better than any other application out there. But we've designed it in a way that it looks great and it's not distracting. And so you have this clean, simple dashboard to use. It's easy to find things. It's easy to figure out where things go, drag and drop different blocks into your sermon. It's so simple to use, and it's designed to where you don't have to spend a bunch of time figuring out how to use the product. You just get in there and you start writing, and you move blocks into it where you want to. Number 4 is it makes your sermon prep more efficient. And to me, this might be one of the more important ones, if not the most important reason to use Sermonary. When I started using Sermonary, it began to train my brain to see my sermons differently. So a lot of us, when we write our sermons, we may think of our sermons in our minds as this one big abstract piece of work. But when you start using Sermonary and you start writing in blocks, because that's really how we've designed it, is to be this block mode. When you begin to write your sermons in blocks, you begin to see your sermon in these different blocks. And so you could start seeing different things in the world. Maybe it's illustrations that you see. Maybe it's experiences that you have. Maybe you're at a kid's birthday party and you're thinking, man, that would be a great illustration for my sermon. And you begin to start thinking about your sermon in different blocks of, here's my introduction, and here's my illustration, and here's this part of the passage, and here's where I'm going to use humor, and here's where I'm going to kind of draw things together. And you no longer see your sermon as just this one long piece of paper, but you begin to see your sermon in different chunks and blocks. And then in Sermonary, you can drag those blocks around. So if I don't like where that illustration is, I think it would fit better down here, or I think this explanation of this passage should move up before this section. And it's just easy to move things around and make sermon preparation so much more efficient. Number 5 is your sermons and related materials are more organized. Everything is in one place. You can search your sermons. You can see all of your sermons there in your dashboard. You can see the passages that they're about. You can see all these different things, and they're organized inside of your dashboard. And so it just makes finding sermons so much easier. And this is a point that I'm going to make in just a second, but everything is right there in one place. Number 6 is that you can collaborate and share your sermon notes. I don't know if you know this, if you use Sermonary, you can actually share podium mode of your sermon to other people. This is a great way to get feedback before you preach your sermon. I have people in my life, there are mentors in my life, there are younger people in my life that I send my sermons to get feedback. One, I might be missing something. Or they might have some input that they could give and say, hey, I really think you should maybe talk about this, or here's a perspective that maybe you haven't thought about. It gives me different perspectives. So you can send it to your spouse. You can send it to other pastors on your staff. You can send it to friends of yours. You can send it to deacons or elders or whoever it might be. I think you should be sending your notes out beforehand. Not only this, but when it's done, you can send that note in podium mode, and it just is a beautiful flow of your sermon. You can send that to your media team if you have one, so that they know where you're going in your sermon. You can send it to your worship leaders so that he knows where worship leaders and pastors should be on the same page all the time. And so everything just begins to flow together when you can send those and collaborate your sermon prep with other people. Number 7 is you can access your sermon remotely. Now, some of you may have heard this story before. Just a few weeks ago, I was preaching at a church, and I was running a little bit late, and I forgot my iPad at home, and that's where I use Sermonary. I preach from my iPad and use podium mode on my iPad, but I forgot it at home because I was in a rush. And I didn't panic. I didn't have to panic because I had my phone. And all I had to do was pull up my phone, and there my sermon was, ready to go. Exactly how I left it. It's ready to preach. All I had to do was push podium mode, and there was my sermon right there on my phone. I had to make the font a little bit bigger, which is simple to do with a couple of clicks of the button, and it was the right size. So your sermons are always with you. You never know when you might need a sermon. And so you always have your sermons with you. They're always there. So if you leave your notebooks at home, if you leave your iPad at home, if you leave your computer at home, if you've got your phone and it's got the internet, you've got your sermons. Never have to worry about it. Number 8 is you have easy access to sermon resources. Inside of Sermonary, there's a plethora of commentaries. There's a plethora of sermon resources that are powered by Ministry Pass. If you don't know what Ministry Pass is, these are resources inside of Sermonary in the resource library that you can use as a help to write your sermons. Now, these are not pre-written sermons. Think of them as somebody has taken several different commentaries and resources and took the best of different passages that were talked about in those and put them into one sermon guide for you. So now you have the best in one sermon guide of content and resources from different commentaries. So you don't just have one commentary, one quote from this commentary. You have several quotes on specific passages from several different commentaries. So it's almost like somebody took a bunch of resources, took the best of what was in there, and put them into these sermon guides to help you write your sermons. These are not pre-written sermons. These are basically, think of them as commentaries but they've been dialed down to specific passages that you can preach on. So if there's a sermon series that you want to do, they outline the big idea for you. Here's kind of the big idea of this passage. And then here's what other commentaries and resources had to say. Here's a couple of illustration ideas that you could use, YouTube videos, whatever it might be. And these are great resources that I encourage every pastor to check out. And then number 9 is you can rehearse and time your sermon with podium mode. I think this is absolutely important. To be a better communicator, you need to practice your sermons. You need to time your sermons. The more you write, the better you're going to get of an idea of, okay, if it's this many words, I'm probably going to go about this long. So if it's so many words, that's about 30 minutes in the way that I preach it. But you can time your sermons. You should rehearse this. You should do this often. And so I would encourage you to use the sermon timer inside of podium mode, and then use it when you get up to preach, so that you know where you are. If you're going over time, if you've got extra time and you've got some extra things that you want to say, you can do that with confidence, and that's nice to have. And then finally, you can get back to the excitement of preaching. I love writing my sermons in Sermonary. It's not boring. I used to write it in Word or in Pages on my Mac, and it was just boring. And it didn't do anything to spark ideas and creativity. And yes, I know that that's the job of the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit uses things around us to inspire us. And sitting there looking at a blank screen on my computer was not doing it for me. Sermonary is built to inspire pastors to write their best sermons. And so it's exciting, it's fun, it looks great, it's fun to use, it's easy to use. I love using Sermonary. I believe that I have become a better preacher and a better writer because I use Sermonary. And so I would encourage you to check it out, sermonary.co. And they've got a 30-day free trial. You can literally use it for 4 weeks for free. And just try it out. See if you like it. Get in there, open up one of the templates, check them out, start using it, start writing it. I believe that this is the tool that you have been waiting for to be the best sermon writer that you can be. That your potential as a communicator, as a preacher, as a writer will come out when you use Sermonary. I absolutely believe that it will. So check it out. If you check it out, try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments with using Sermonary. And hey, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to give you a little insider secret. There's some big updates coming this fall for Sermonary. I'm very excited about it. I can't tell you any more than that yet. But if you've been a regular Sermonary user, you're going to love these. If you haven't been a regular Sermonary user, you're gonna love these anyway. You're just not going to know any different. It's going to be huge. These are some big updates that are rolling out, and this is just phase 1 of a series of updates that we have coming out over the next year. And so this first one, phase 1, is huge. Really excited. You need to go ahead and check out Sermonary. Experience Sermonary now, so that when the fall comes, not only are you locked in at what Sermonary is now, but you're going to really be blown away by what is coming in the fall. So check it out. Check out Sermonary. I absolutely believe it's going to make you a better sermon writer, a better preacher, a better communicator. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you guys next time.